Hey there, welcome back to Just One More Chapter with Emily. Whether you've been here since the beginning or this is your first time visiting us, we're so glad that you're here. If you haven't been here since the beginning, make sure that you go back and listen to other videos so that you can catch up with where we are in the story and what's going on. It's hard to follow along when you don't have any context. We're starting out with Chapter 6, and depending on the length, we may go on to Chapter 7. We'll see how long this takes us to get through. So grab a snack, settle in, and get ready. Here we go with Chapter 6. We spend the rest of the morning in the park at Greenwich and then walk along the river, eating from a bag of French fries. Elliot saves a bite from each to toss to the seagulls, blowing on it first, making sure that it isn't too hot for them. There is still black soil under one of my thumbnails that refuses to dislodge. "Look," Elliot says, dropping to the ground, "a coin." He picks up a discarded bronze coin and rolls it along his palm. It says 5. 5-cent euro. "Do you have this one already?" I ask. "I don't think so. This is a really, really good one." He gives it to me for safekeeping until we get home. In his bedroom is a collection of about 24 coins lined up along his windowsill. It's a hobby he began with his previous foster family, and the rules seem to be that the coins must be found by chance while out and about. It doesn't count if someone gives it to him. "People don't carry cash much anymore," I tell him. "When I was your age, you'd come across a dropped coin on the street almost every day. You have to be extremely good to be a lost coin collector these days." "I am good." He runs ahead, eyes down for more. I wonder if the events of this morning are all forgotten, and hope it won't come flooding back when he goes to school on Monday. What would my mother have done? Bulldoze the other parents, who she would have thought vapid and dim, with rhetoric about child psychology, and probably threatened to sue while she dragged me out of there. But she never would have been at my school voluntarily, so it doesn't matter. Richard might have gone. He definitely would. Later, after Elliot goes to bed, Richard is still on my mind. "Hi, Richard," I type before deleting it. Too informal. "Dear Richard." Nobody writes text like that. I decide on hello, the word on its own line, the final letter like a great big hole. My reply is a week late. It's almost midnight. I am groggy and soon ready for bed, and now is when I am able to send the message as painlessly as possible. In the almost asleep twilight, semi-anesthetized, not fully here. Immediately, my phone begins to ring with a video call. It's Richard. He knows I'm awake. I have to answer. "Hi, Ravel. What time is it for you?" "Coming up to 7 in the morning. Sorry I didn't get back to you last week." Our faces next to one another, spilling out of the 2 squares on my phone screen. I realize we aren't too dissimilar. He also has shadowy features and straight dark hair. We could be related. He's around 60, almost a 30-year age gap, certainly old enough to be my father. I try to picture his height the last time I stood next to him, but I can't find a memory. "I just wanted to update you about the probate situation," he says. "The conclusion is that she didn't have any type of will. We never discussed it, not really. I think people make wills when they have children together, don't they? When you meet at 50, it doesn't seem to matter." "I don't mind, Richard. I don't want anything." I've told him this before. Money-wise, I'm all right. I don't need it. I say it confidently and smoothly, thinking of all the tells I've come to learn about liars. Never give anything away. I've passed it to a lawyer, a Kiwi guy here in Singapore. I think it's going to be a very slow process. I'll keep you posted. "Sure, okay." Once this matter is settled, I doubt Richard and I will find a reason to speak again, and I'm surprised by how much this disappoints me. "I got your thank you card and the wine." He smiles and leans closer to the camera. "That was very nice of you." "It took ages to get there," I say. "I should have used a company local to you." "So it all worked out? The little guy's with you?" "Yes." I have no desire to explain to Richard the complexities of the adoption situation. I guess he's in bed. He wants to see Elliot. I like Richard, but I was in my early 20s when he got together with my mother, and we've never even lived in the same country, so I don't really know him. We've had more contact in the last 13 months since she died than we did in the previous 9 years of their relationship. Now with my mother gone, I wasn't intending to ever introduce him to Elliot. I didn't think there would be any point. "Well, send me a picture to tide me over until I can see him another time." "Sure." I hope he doesn't mean right now. I don't want to show Elliot off to anyone while there's still a chance he's not going to be my son. The downloaded photo in the bowels of Richard's computer for years after Elliot is placed with someone else. The child I briefly had, now a digital ghost. And how's your work? You're still interpreting? I am. It's always quite busy. Good. He speaks slowly, filling the time because I am scarcely contributing to this conversation. I am tired, and I don't know what shape this relationship is supposed to take. As long as you enjoy it. Do I? Enjoy isn't quite the right word. I couldn't do anything else, I tell him. Nonsense. He dismisses it as modesty, but I know there are few employment opportunities for someone who speaks a large number of languages as their sole qualification. Au pair? Until recently, I had no experience with children. Foreign sales executive? I'm not a natural networker. A diplomat? I'd never pass the civil service exams because I'm not an all-arounder. I excelled at every interpreting and translation test I attempted, but in me those abilities came at the expense of numeracy, spatial, and visual skills. A secondary school language teacher? I'm not adept at explaining things. A flight attendant? I spent my whole childhood moving around. All I want now is to live in one place. In the job market, languages are considered to be complementary, a bonus seen to enhance some other primary skill. They aren't meant to be everything you have to offer to the world, to add up to an entire existence. Your mother always said you could have been an academic too, Richard says, grinning like a proud uncle after 3 Christmas gins. Of course she tried to convince me to do a PhD in linguistics and follow her into academia and make some proper money from your talent. There were many universities, she'd add, where the requirements for entry were lower and where the standards of work demanded were more achievable to me. I never wanted to follow that path. For me, languages are a living thing, not something to be analyzed and examined for study's sake. A skill to be acquired for the use in the real world. You can read a play or a film script, take it apart and see what it's trying to say, but you'll never know it, and you definitely won't feel it because it's designed for the mouths of human beings and can only ever leave a smudge on the page. I should go, I tell Richard. It's getting late here. Yes, go. I bet the little one wakes up early. He smiles to himself. You'll let me know if you need anything else? They won't have to interview you again. I wasn't thinking about the reference. I mean, with anything. Oh. I almost didn't apply for adoption. I didn't know who to ask to be my references because I was independent by the time he met my mother and they lived on the other side of the world. Richard qualified as a requisite non-family member. I'm not sure what my mother told him about my childhood and how she explained why, as an adult, I kept my visits and phone calls to a minimum. He wrote a generous full-page letter to the agency, exaggerating how often we saw each other during the 10 years of his relationship with my mother, giving the impression he knew me much better than he actually did. He wrote that I was smart and resourceful, generous, and capable of forgiveness. I've tried to ignore that. I should just be grateful for what he did for me and not fixate on that one minuscule thing. But those words bother me, and I want to know if it was a deliberate dig. And about the reference letter. Oh, yes? His voice sounds so hopeful. He wants to keep the call going. If I've read too much into that comment, I'll offend him. I'll mess this up. Maybe I don't want to know. I only mean to say thank you again for everything you've done to help me with the adoption. You need anything else, you let me know. Why did he even agree to write it? Afterward, he had to be interviewed and reaffirm his claims about me, so it was no small task. Did he feel sorry for me because my mother had recently died and I was drowning in guilt about not saying goodbye? Did his own grief make him delicate and pliable and willing to agree to anything for a distraction? He must wonder why I asked him, of all people. It looks desperate. He would know it's because I obviously had no one else to ask. He either pities me or sees me as a weird loner or both. I had a friend, Doreen, who would have written me a brilliant letter, been the very best reference, but we haven't spoken now in 8 years and probably never will again. On our video call, Richard is waiting for me to say something. Before today, the last time we spoke was right before his interview all those months ago. He asked me how long I'd been thinking of adopting, and I told him the truth. It had never occurred to me until she died. Next, he was about to ask me why exactly I wanted to adopt. I was sure of it, but then he closed his mouth and nodded, and there were no more questions. Richard believes he knows me. He thinks he understands why I'm doing this. Don't be shy, he makes a point again. Anything you need, just ask. Keep chatting, his face is saying. I should make more of an effort with him. He was kind when I didn't fly to Singapore for the funeral he organized. I tried to recall a nice anecdote from my childhood to share with him, and then I could say goodnight and go, but none come to mind. Instead, I think of the way people teach non-English speakers the word for grief, focusing on the long E sound in the middle, but it's the F that goes on forever. I say it under my breath and taste the letter trapped behind my front teeth. What was that? Richard says. He heard me. I quickly say goodbye and end the call. 8 months into our life in Milan, my mother informed me that we were moving to Russia at the next school term. I'm not going, I said, matter of fact. I'm staying in Italy. Oh, are you? She was amused. I hadn't had a proper friend since year 2 in South London. I was exhausted being the new kid, every year or so, required to explain myself yet again, to work hard to make a fresh group of children like me, so I stopped trying. I wasn't lazy, I was being practical. I knew making friends meant I would start imagining a life for myself in that place, at that school, around those people, and I'd only have to erase it when my mother announced we were moving again. I didn't know when or where we would move to in the years ahead. I had no control or say in the matter. You learn how to live without connections to people or plans so that you don't have to continually wipe away your future. My insistence that I was staying in Italy kept the smirk on her face for the rest of the day. Richard is a nice man, but we aren't family or friends. We're nothing to each other, really. We don't share a name or DNA or now anyone. I said I was going to do just chapter 6, but I think we will go ahead and move on to chapter 7. So settle in while we read just one more chapter. I am up early, woken by back pain. Sharp pangs in my lower spine appeared out of nowhere a couple months ago. It must be the sudden increase in my physical activity, all of my running after Elliot, kicking the ball in the park after school. Bending and twisting while gardening yesterday at school didn't help. On YouTube, I searched through channels and videos looking for remedial stretches I can do. On the carpet by my bed, I try to follow along with a back bend, but it only seems to make things worse. The next video plays, and the therapist speaks directly into the camera. These patients didn't respond to treatment, and their pain had no structural cause. I had one patient whose lower back pain started shortly after her sister's terminal cancer diagnosis. She didn't respond to medication, physical therapy, or even surgical intervention, and I eventually concluded that it was psychological. She was experiencing pain-related guilt. The connection between pain, disability, and guilt is an unexplored field of medicine, but it is increasingly considered by mainstream practitioners. This sounds like alternative medicine, and I've never had much time for unproven treatments, yet I keep watching until the end of the clip. The physical therapist on the screen is about Doreen's age, not her age now, but the age she was the last time I saw her. Her voice even sounds similar. Am I really remembering the sound of someone's voice I haven't heard in 8 years? Someone who I only ever knew for 12 months? It must be a false memory. I close the laptop and take 2 acetaminophen. Elliot soon stirs and we eat breakfast. It's the second Sunday in a row where I'm leaving him to go back to work. He's excited to see Sandra again, so it will be no hardship from his side of things, and he deserves some fun after yesterday. I wait until 9 o'clock to ring her. No answer, nor at 10 minutes past or 9:15, and at 9:30 I call customer service for the Silver Balloon app. They try to find another babysitter in the area, but I don't want to leave Elliot with just anyone, not after what happened at the Old Bailey. Now I'm late for my assignment. It isn't unusual for interpreters to cancel a booking. The job and security in this industry runs both ways, but I always follow through on my commitments and have never once pulled out at the last moment. This could be the first of many occasions now that I have Elliot, where I'm left with no choice. It's embarrassing to have to phone Exia and apologize. I hang up, my posture hunched, more twinges in my lower back. Sandra must have slept in. Not now, surely. It's past 10. Something has come up and she's changed her mind. I would never simply not turn up for a commitment. She's obviously flaky. She can't have forgotten, as we only made this booking yesterday and she said she was glad of the work. Flaky and too inconsiderate to even bother with a phone call. Elliot is dressed and fed, backpack packed in case Sandra wanted to take him out. She's not coming, I tell him, hearing some residual anger in my voice. Directed at Sandra, of course, not Elliot. He is probably used to this kind of thing, being let down by his birth parents, people not turning up for him or following through on promises. He needs to know it isn't because of him, and he should expect more from adults in his life. Demand better. She wanted me to tell you that she's very sorry, I quickly add. She was looking forward to seeing you, but she's not feeling well today. I think back to his tantrum when Sandra went to leave last time and the shattered tablet. Oh, he says, finding some more Nutella on his fingers. Oh well, not too worried. So I'm going to stay home with you today. Okay, Elliot says, indifferent to that piece of news too. Do you like ships? Surely his previous foster family took him to the Maritime Museum in Greenwich. Boats? He isn't sure, but he looks interested. If I'm not working today, there's no use us wasting a warm Sunday inside. We take the subway to London Bridge and walk to HMS Belfast, the ship chum museum where we climb ladders and poke through narrow hatchways. There are wax figures so real, Elliot insists they are an olden day sailor come to life. We move around the engine room and on to the galley kitchen with 1930s recipes taped to the walls and mock tins of ancient flour. He presses every button and spins every wheel within reach, but doesn't give a clear answer when I ask if he's been on a boat before, if in his life before me. There was a trace of jealousy when I consider that someone may have already taken him to see a ship like this, maybe even a better one. Elliot is running his hand over a turret as I flip through the guidebook and realize exactly what it is I've brought him to. HMS Belfast was a warship. It served in the Arctic in Korea and was the second ship to open fire during the Normandy landings. People died in here and killed others from here. They saw unimaginable horrors, the stuff of a lifetime of torment. What happened to Elliot before he was taken into care? He generally seems fine, but what kind of private trauma is stored inside? When the authorities first remove a child, the idea is for it to be temporary, for the birth parents or other close family members to be given a chance to sort themselves out. While the child is in foster care, they often maintain connection with their birth parents through supervised contact visits in the presence of a social worker. These meetings usually take place in council buildings, little rooms that sigh with despair the moment you walk in. I know this because I've been in one of those rooms. When I think about my room, I can smell the stench of cigarette smoke by construction workers on the street below, and my lungs fill with the black mold that reached up the walls. My room had a stack of plastic chairs in the corner, strip lights that couldn't be arsed to glow, and carpet so filthy that the stains had stains. I was anxious to appear professional and almost vomited the breakfast I didn't eat. I sat silent in my chair, trying to do what was expected of me. My legs twitched underneath me, skin itchy in my new clothes, my first cheap business suit. Elliot has almost certainly been in one of those rooms, so there's that experience that we have in common. Maybe Elliot's memory will shelter him, wipe itself clean the way mine did sometime during my childhood. We disembark the ship and make a plan to head home via Pizza Express. Elliot is delighted to find a grubby penny coin on the footpath and drops it into my bag. We'll have to clean this one before it can go on your windowsill, I say. A Coke bath. That's right. Coca-Cola will make that coin shiny again. What did Elliot do at the weekends and school holidays before he was taken into care? Did he understand the difference of the end of the week, or was each day of his life just simply more of the same? We jump on a bus and immediately stall at traffic lights, tangled in the weekend rush. I watch pedestrians pour across the road. When we're out in large crowds like this, I find myself regarding the faces of strangers, cheekbones and nose ridges, hair and eye color, scouting for Elliot's features, the possibility of unknown cousins, aunts, and even estranged sisters or brothers. By 6 o'clock in the evening, there is still no apology text from Sandra. I try calling her again, even though I don't expect her to answer. She'll probably ghost me now. Her phone doesn't even ring. I give up, but then her face appears on my screen, the television screen. I drop my water glass, spilling it all over the dining table. Sandra is on the news. I let the liquid spread and drip to the floor and slowly rise to my feet. If I can move closer to the TV, the images will look different and the newsreader's words will change. I am too far away and misunderstanding the story. Yes, that's what's happening. But now I am almost on top of the television and Sandra's face is still there. Police are searching for the killer of overseas domestic worker Sandra Ramos, 42, found dead in the home of her Knightsbridge employer. I increase the volume as I move closer to the screen. Closer still, transferring grease from the takeaway pizza to the remote control. Murdered. I hear it again. My ears are playing tricks. The way the human eye sees things upside down and the mind has to correct the image, spin it around. Homicide detectives. This can't be real. My feet are frozen in place as though I have knocked the pause button not on the TV, but on me. What are you doing? A voice. Elliot. I spring into action and press the power button before he looks up and asks me why his babysitter is on the news. How are you going there? I move back toward him, trying to smooth over the fracture in my voice. He is drawing Batman. He was expecting to be drawing today with Sandra. Do you think you'll be doing that for a while longer? A grunt that says yes. That's good. Keep going. I've interpreted on murder trials before and suspect interrogations where multiple people have been killed, but those victims are on some level conceptual. That's how I managed to do the work. Names on a page, but not entirely real people. Never someone I've actually met. Sandra came to the UK to work for a better life for her daughter, and this is how things turn out. On the laptop, I search for her. It takes 3 reads of the police press release until I finally absorb the words. Then I work my way through each of the news links on the first page of search results. Last night, Sandra was found dead in the Knightsbridge house where she was employed. Her body was discovered at the bottom of the kitchen stairs. The fall killed her, but the police are treating it as a murder. The door leading to the back garden was found open, and broken crystal glass shards in the kitchen and at the top of the stairs indicate a struggle. The crime is described as an attempted robbery gone wrong. Sandra would have been terrified. I carry my unfinished pizza to the trash can and end up tossing in the whole plate. It all feels contaminated with horror. I mop up the spilled water and then spray disinfectant onto the dining table, scrubbing frantic circles, feeling woozy on the fumes. I was so self-righteous today, thinking to myself how I would never simply not turn up for a job, congratulating myself because I followed through on commitments no matter what. Part of me was relieved that Sandra failed to show. I couldn't bear another display of Elliot refusing to let her leave at the end of the day, of him choosing her over me. That slice of pizza I ate is now a brick in my stomach. Sandra's 9-year-old daughter. What's going to happen to her? I sit back down and read through the news articles again. One report says that nothing in the house was missing or stolen. Why would someone break into a mansion in Knightsbridge and not take anything? The Times says about the open door that there was no sign of forced entry. Why would someone kill a domestic worker? A stranger doesn't make sense. The story says the heiress was home. I opened a new tab in my browser and read that she was upstairs at the time of the murder, listening to music with headphones. She heard nothing and discovered the maid's body some hours later. The music was so loud she didn't hear the crystal smashing, screaming, fighting, a body falling down the stairs. She's worth £500 million and sits in her mansion listening to ear-piercing black metal, screeching punk. I don't believe it. It's very convenient for someone who is already responsible for one baby's death and the mother's life-changing injury. The police can't buy this. They're pretending to go along with it so they can gain her trust and investigate her the way they do with husbands and male partners when the wife goes missing. Maybe Sandra said something to the heiress after the dangerous driving trial. They got into an argument and it went too far. The woman shouldn't even be free. I think back to the trial. The not guilty verdict felt like an inevitability. The witness statement from the Italian tourist seemed to have little to no effect, but it may have, had it been changed by me. Mom, I'm thirsty. Elliot. I close the laptop and look at the time. 8:30. He's not in bed. I've been sitting here for 3 hours. Oh, love, I'm sorry. I lost track of time. He has a final glass of juice, and we brush his teeth and get him to sleep. I leave the nightlight on in the hall in case he wakes up. It's a frosted orange globe in the shape of a dinosaur, illuminating the path from his room to mine. I touch the light with the back of my hand to make sure it isn't overheating. Seeing it side on in the pitch black like this, the dinosaur with its open mouth and bared teeth is actually quite frightening. Not so much scaring the darkness away, but emerging from it, waiting for the right moment to devour its prey. How could I have ever bought this thing? I rip it from the wall socket and throw it into the trash along with the cold pizza and the dinner plate I couldn't face washing. A terse email from Exia warns me against canceling assignments last minute if I want to remain on their books. To make up for it, I reply, tomorrow I'll work any job they need filled. I stay up for the late news to see if I can see Sandra's face again. Milk, offers the detective constable. It's a Monday morning and we are on a break in the police station kitchen. Yes, thank you, I say. A take-back control novelty mug floats in the sink. I borrowed someone's hand-painted mummy mug for my Earl Grey. We'll let him stew for another 5 minutes before we go back in, the DC says. The man in the interview room has been asked to come down to the station to chat about one of his drug-dealing associates. He is not yet under caution, and he does not have a solicitor present. He's lying through his nasty yellow teeth, isn't he? I steal a sip of tea to avoid answering. You must be able to tell. You know the grammar, the normal speech patterns. I don't know what an honest denial is supposed to sound like in French. I'm interpreting as accurately as possible. Last night after Elliot went to bed, I kept searching for information on Sandra's murder. I did not get much sleep, but I know it's not affecting my performance. I'm not suggesting you aren't, but I can't judge his delivery when he's speaking through you. He's right, the client is lying through his poorly maintained teeth. I've been doing my job and repeating every word of it. He's saying he has no idea why he's in here, that he's ignorant of his associate's line of work. Oh, he knows. This I'm sure of, because I know the client. Though he hasn't recognized me out of sheer coincidence. I've interpreted for him twice before, something to do with drugs. Both times he charmed the officer into releasing him with a police caution. It's obvious the detective is unaware of the man's previous cautions. Occasionally, the records don't flag during police national computer checks, weren't entered correctly in the first place, or are not fully verified. I can't tell from his body language, the DC says. Don't they teach you how to read that in academy? There was a course, but I was ill that day. Man flu. Can't be helped. I didn't bother to re-enroll. Didn't think I'd need it. I thought everyone I'd encounter in this profession would be totally honest. Police are often good at banter. You're suggesting they aren't, I ask? I suppose we do get a few fibbers roll through our door. He takes a big gulp of tea. So, as the bilingual speaker in the room, he thinks he's disarmed me with that fun little exchange. What do you think? Is he lying? I can't give my opinion. You know this. Sometimes during a job, it takes all the discipline I have not to scream the roof off the place. The police, the solicitors, all that training and experience, yet unable to see what's right in front of them. We're just having a friendly chat during tea break. It would be against protocol. You're not on the clock right now. He's the client. If I was ever to play outside the rules, it wouldn't be like this, a clear misstep with no plausible deniability. You're a police interpreter. You work for us. I shake my head. You use my service as an impartial. If this French guy went to trial, you'd be called as a witness for the prosecution. To testify about what was said in here today, to attest to my translation. I say, still impartial. Your personal opinion? I'm sorry. He nods and empties his mug. We're quiet as a debate between two officers breaks out in an open plan room. Answer me this, he says. When you repeat them, how do his words feel in your mouth? Like something natural or bullshit? I need to excuse myself for the bathroom if this conversation continues. Well? Back inside the cramped table, the suspect that's not officially a suspect. The DC asks another question about the exact nature of the man's work with his known drug-dealing associate. I repeat it in French and wait for the client's reply. Honest, the Frenchman said. If I knew something, I would tell you. I don't even drink. Maybe a little cognac at home. Right, the detective suppresses a smile. A charmer is still a charmer when speaking through an interpreter. Let's circle back to your business with this man, the DC says. In other words, back to where we were an hour ago. Officer, he's no friend of mine. If I knew something about him, I'd tell you. I repeat the French words into English. It's clear to me the detective doesn't have enough to hold this guy. If he knew about the previous cautions, things might be different. He could use them. Right, one last try. Is there anything you want to tell us about your associate? Ah, the client says, then a pause while he thinks. It's all for show. No, I don't think so. A wide, toothy grin. He's just so cocky, this guy, with the confidence of someone who knows they'll never get caught. Not properly caught. Should I tell the officer this man is a serial offender? I am not supposed to know anything about the client's past, not meant to think or have an opinion. If I finger a pen and consider scribbling down a message, he has previous cautions, check the PNC, and passing it across the table. No, I can't do it. This is how it starts. And then what? A few years ago, a Vietnamese interpreter in Lancashire was found to be in the pay of a drugs gang. A cannabis gang hired her to pass messages between its members during prison visits, and she helped to forge a birth certificate and identity documents so that its leaders would avoid prosecution. She was sentenced to 12 months in prison for conspiracy to pervert the course of justice. I bet that wasn't the only time that interpreter did something she shouldn't have. Maybe she started with something as small as this, so minor that she didn't even realize until later what it was she'd done. I bury the thought, visualize pouring sand over the top of it. The idea is gone. I am not in the room as an informant. My job is to give this man the same opportunity to communicate with police as any other English speaker. If the detective doesn't know his background, then neither do I. Another lie pours out of the client's mouth. I repeat it in English. In court the other week, it seemed certain that the heiress would avoid punishment for her crimes, and I watched it happen. Sure enough, the heiress went free, and then Sandra was murdered. I don't know why the heiress would want to kill her, but then why wouldn't she stop if she accidentally hit someone in the parking lot? There were witnesses, copious CCTV, and no chance of her fleeing the scene unidentified. She had to be aware that she'd hit the pregnant woman. The heiress and this French man in front of me both think they're untouchable. To them, the rules do not apply. Body heat from the client crowds the room, presses into me. At Elliot's school gardening day, I didn't defend my child. I walked away. What did I do with those 2 little boys? I showed Elliot that liars win. There's nothing I could have done in the heiress trial, but here all I need to do is write a message to the detective. I open the front page of my notebook. The cardboard bends back, but then my fingers change their mind and the notebook shuts. It isn't my place to get involved. I am only the interpreter. Then I think of Sandra again and start to write. I keep my eye on the detective as my pen bores into the paper fast and messy. He goes to speak, and his eyes meet mine. Wait, I try to communicate with my retinas. I'm writing this for you. A beat. The client looks from me to the detective and back again. I return my pen to the table and still my trembling hand. The notebook slides towards the DC. We both look down at it. The ink is completely spent. I realize now that the page is blank. Do you need that last question repeated, interpreter? He asked. Here's where I can ask the DC for a bathroom break. He'll wait for me in the corridor and I can tell him what I know. I can cough and request a drink and then follow him to the water cooler and have this man arrested or at least held overnight for further questioning. I do none of those things. No, I say, closing my notebook. It's fine. Interview terminated. The audio recorder is switched off. Did I will the pen to fail? Staying silent is ethical, but now this man is going free because once again I sat feeble. I'm no Batman. When action is required, I look on. I'm not even Robin. And that was the end of Chapter 7. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you can follow along with Ravel and Elliot. Be sure to check back frequently as we go through The Interpreter by Brooke Robinson.